I found it.
And I found you. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of I Can Do This All Day. This is Dan, the Part-Time Avenger, Mark the Resident Jedi.
Hello there. Today we're taking on a new movie, a brand new-ish movie, a movie that's been out for less than a month, and it's already on Netflix. That movie is Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon Part 1.
In all fairness, that movie was for Netflix. They did have a limited theatrical release, but yes, your statement is accurate. And even if it wasn't for Netflix, it probably would have made it to Netflix pretty fast.
That was a joke.
But this is going to be a fun one, everybody. I hope you have your seatbelts because we're going into ludicrous speed with this bitch. With this movie, Zack Snyder, who obviously tried to spark the DCEU, I don't know if I would say failed miserably, but it definitely was a failure because it's over now. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Yeah, that is no longer around. Zack Snyder had a shot at creating this universe, and there is a sequel to this movie because this movie was designed as one complete saga, but everyone was like, no way we're going to make this movie. So they had to break it into two because of length. So this is kind of disjointed.
You're telling me that Zack Snyder couldn't tell a complete story in 2 hours? That's shocking. That's shocking. Right? I do not believe that.
I don't think that this movie could be told in 3 movies based off of the amount that's packed into the first movie. I don't think he even shrunk anything down. I think there's a few missteps here. So why are we watching this movie? It's because we haven't done anything good from Star Wars in a very long time. The last thing we did from Star Wars, and it's coming up again in an episode, it's the Star Wars Holiday Special. Oh my God, we're going to say something to that reference every episode for the rest of time, apparently. But that was the last thing we did for Star Wars. So now, with you being the resident Jedi and the Star Wars fan, I had recommended Rebel Moon because this was actually pitched to Lucasfilm as a Star Wars movie. This was shortly after Disney acquired Lucasfilm, but I could see where there's a lot of similarities. So, what did you think of going?
What did you think of going into this movie? So I hadn't heard about the preamble to this entire situation. I appreciate some of Zack Snyder's work. When I say some of it, I mean 300 and Man of Steel. Zack Snyder lost me at BVS with one word. You know that word. And after that, nothing that he's done has been good. Like Justice League was better than the what the Abomination turned out to be. It was a universe killer, if you will. But
Watchmen was good. Watchmen was great, actually.
I haven't seen that movie.
What? Never.
No.
Ooh, God. I think we need to review that for this because I think that would really open your eyes to Zack Snyder and his talents. Not saying that he's a complete 100% ass clown, but that is a great movie.
It comes from the period when like I liked Zack Snyder movies, so I can assume that. And I'm game to put it on the list.
I'm game for it if you are. Maybe we could see and give a little bit redemption for Zack Snyder, even though it's in his earlier catalog. I'm up for it. But my expectation going into this was like, hey, we get to watch some space odyssey for you because you love that type of stuff.
I normally do like that kind of stuff. But again, all I heard were comparisons to Star Wars. And I was like, that's Zack Snyder. And, you're talking about Watchmen being one of the most, best-selling books. He did a great job with it. I think Frank Miller's Batman, right? When he fought Superman is like maybe top 5 all time selling comic runs. And he butchered the shit out of that. This is like when everybody was excited about The Last Jedi and Rian Johnson. They're like, oh, he's going to do so good. And we got that. So I went into this with, I guess I'll watch it.
I want to just take a quick moment here for anyone who's listening to the full episodes. Give us a follow on the socials, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram. We've been getting some participation on the shorts, the reels, and um, whatever the TikToks. So we love to kind of read some of that stuff on the podcast, and sometimes we'll banter back and forth with you on the social. So yeah, give us a shout. We want to hear you, and take a look right here for the email, and write in. We'll take a moment to type a thoughtful email, and we will read it on the podcast. So let's go into it. All right. So let's just go critique the movie, and we're gonna do this the only way that Clint Eastwood would want us to do this. We're going to talk about the good, we're going to talk about the bad, and we're going to talk about the ugly. So let's start off with the good. What is a good spot for you? All right. Well, let me talk about the good. And the good, very brief, is Anthony Hopkins. I can recognize that voice anywhere. And that was like a good performance, and it pulled me in. I was like, holy shit, Anthony Hopkins is in this.
Oh.
This is gonna be badass. And I will say though, I'm trying to follow. You could tell that this was pitched as a Star Wars movie because it started with a Star Wars crawl, but the crawl is way more effective because you can read what's going on. And I'm a good listener, but I couldn't catch all the little intricate details of all the different names and planets, the kings, the everything. And so I'm like, I rewound it, put on the captions just so I can understand what Anthony Hopkins was talking about, because his voice is like a sweet lullaby. Sir Anthony Hopkins.
I absolutely love that you're positive to this. Was the narrator was great, and he was
For the first, very similar to Super Mario Brothers. In like the first 10 seconds, that was the best part of the movie to never be heard from again. Well, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, that to me speaks to the issue that Snyder brought to this. He decided, oh, this would be a good spot to bring everybody and read them in. Let's read them into all this and talk about the begatting and the begodding and all of the things. Let's do that. Like, has Zack Snyder ever played a video game? Like, you're supposed to give visuals to that. You're supposed to make it pretty, not just like, ooh, space and Anthony Hopkins. I'm like, it's
funny thing that you mentioned
that'll
that.
be great.
Funny thing that you mentioned that, because this was pitched as a video game too.
This would be an awesome video game because you could just play as the main character. It takes you on her journey. That I would be game with. Honestly, this would be an awesome like Final Fantasy. It would be good. Now I understand why it's so bad as a movie, because it's supposed to be a video. Oh my gosh, that's the good. The good is awesome video game story. Actually, Dan, I take that back. I'm pretty sure this is a video game story, to give the Star Wars people who tuned into this a little bit of Star Wars tickle teasery. A lot of this is the story from The Force Unleashed. Like, the whole first half of it is the story from The Force Unleashed, where Vader had a apprentice that was hidden from the Emperor, and whatever. Like, I know that she was front and center and all that. I mean, the whole they should have called this to call back to a previous podcast the way that you did with the Star Wars holiday special. This should have been called Rebel Moon. Who is my daddy and what does he do? With her awesome haircut.
She's a cop, you idiot.
Are you a cop?
Oh my god. That we're having fun, everybody. We're having fun. But yeah, this movie's a little bit disjointed, all over the place. It's jam packed. It's like
you want to
it's
know
like
where
a can
it
of
lost me?
sardines.
You want to know where it lost me? Anthony Hopkins was great at the beginning. I barely remember it because it lost me immediately in the first space scene where they teleport a ship out of a space vagina. I
Yes, I
watched this
put in
movie
my
with my
notes.
wife and I looked at her and I said, "Did that just come out of a space vagina?" And she said, "Yep, yeah, it did." And I was like, nobody thought to tell him, Zach, that's awful vaginal, that wormhole. Maybe we gotta change it. Maybe the slit down the middle and the little opening, like maybe not. Maybe that's a bad idea.
Hey, all space openings are different. So,
This one was
I mean, hey,
this was maybe Zack Snyder's lonely and he's trying to tell us. Let us know, Zach. We'll put the socials back up. You can send us an email. We'll correspond. We'll be your friend, just not that kind of friend.
that was the first thing that I put in my notes. Vagina opening and penis ship at the beginning.
Dude, it's just
Normally, I hate Googling stuff while we're on the podcast, but can you please Google and see if anyone else has ever thought that or made comments of that? Because it absolutely looks like it. And normally, one of us needs to bring something up in order to like jog each other's memory on stuff. But absolutely, it looks like
so
it.
and Dan's asking me to do that because we try and come to you, audience, unfettered from other reviews or anything. Like we bring in like the scores, right? The 23% Rotten Tomatoes, no fucking surprise there, right? The 32 Metacritic, no fucking surprise. 5.6 on IMDb, somebody's paying them. But I'll tell you, I just Google it, and the first result is M9 News. I have no idea what M9 News is, but whoever writes their headlines is amazing because the headline is vagina portals in Rebel Moon question mark. And then there's one from comicbookmovie.com that says Rebel Moon director Zack Snyder denies space vaginas.
So I see a quote here on my phone. I looked it up a little bit. I typed into Google vagina opening Rebel Moon, and the first thing that comes up is the probably the same article you're looking at. Zack Snyder said that it aligns with the mythology of how Mother World's ships navigate space.
Yeah, it's a mother world. They come out of the mother world apparently every
Yeah,
time.
and the ships looked like dicks too, right?
I mean,
There's a shaft, a little bit of ballage going on at the bottom of it or
they're
the back
definitely
of it.
phallic. But
Uh,
I don't like the ship shape if it didn't come out of a vagina portal. Not that big of a deal.
yeah, but that's the first thing that you see.
And that's where you lost me with this movie. And all I thought the whole movie is, man, what movie are they gonna steal from next? Because this movie had so many other future or space movies in it. It wasn't even funny, right? Like we could talk about aesthetics, like the Blade Runner guns that Homegirl had, right? Like the fancy pistol thing that looked like a Blade Runner gun, or um, or the military guys that looked like they were from um, oh God, what's the name of that? Starship Troopers, the Starship Trooper guys that were there.
I had no problem with the guns,
I
and
didn't have a problem
there's
with it.
only
I just thought it was a
so
call out.
many. Yeah, there's only so many ways that you can design a guns. There is we can talk about like if it's a ripoff or an homage or what the difference is between them, but I'm all right with guns. The only thing that I was a little bit weirded out by in terms of the weapons were the lack of ability to hit anybody. They were very stormtrooper esque
Yeah,
because they were pretty close. And I don't know
yeah.
how space weapons work in the mother world, but I, who have only shot a gun a few times in my life, I've been to the range a few times, but I'm pretty sure that I can shoot someone that is standing right next to me or walking right next to me or running right next to me. So another bad thing, okay? we're not going in any sequential plot, just for all the listeners. So if you
Neither
are
did the
listening
movie.
to
It's
this,
fine. It's fine.
but Ray Fisher, who was also Cyborg in the Justice League, so good thing that he got a job, because apparently with him whistleblowing for Joss Whedon, like no one really wants to touch him, right? So kudos to Zach for bringing him back on for a role. But the part where he is doing, once again, Zack Snyder is doing a slow motion sacrificing moment.
Yeah.
There's plenty of other slow motion spots too, but so Ray Fisher is running up the ship, slow motion, and I'm like, dude, you can't run slow motion when you're at least 100 meters away from where you're trying to be, because you're going to be running slow mo by the time you
Gonna be
get
a
to that
while.
100 meters. Yeah. But the he's running past an entire line of troops, and they're not shooting at him, and he's right there. That shootout after the double cross by Sons of Anarchy, Charlie Hunnam, that was ridiculous to me, because how did they get out of there alive? That is a bad moment in the film. There's been some crazy shootouts in real life and in movies, and I can understand where the hecticness and absolute insane circumstances can allow for someone to survive. But they were surrounded. They were completely surrounded by those other Imperial troops, if you will, the rip-off stormtroopers.
Yeah, I don't. I have no
Did
words.
you didn't think anything of that spot right there?
I was already done with the movie.
Yeah,
Do you remember the Rick and Morty episode where they had to do a heist
yeah.
and they had to go get all of the people?
Like son of a bitch, you son of a
Yeah,
bitch,
son of
I'm
a
in.
bitch, I'm in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, it seemed like Zack Snyder watched that season when he wrote this.
Yes.
And he was
Right.
like, let's just go. Like, none of them had an intelligent reason as to why they were joining. Like,
It happened way
big,
too quick.
tall, what was his name in it? Because he was like the
Which one?
Tarek, Tarek,
Oh
like
yeah.
Stas Nahir. Like, why are you indentured when you obviously could take this dude out and he's an idiot? And
He's a man of honor. He pays his debts.
but
That's
why did
why.
you need the debt, bro? You're like a prince. There's probably an Anthony Hopkins book on tape with all the backstory. This movie reminds me of it reminded me a lot of Dune. Like you don't know what's going on, but you're kind of just taking it. Like Mad Max too, where like Fury Road, you're like, I have no idea why these people are crazy. But okay, they're crazy. And you have to accept it and just see a moment in time in crazy land. Like and they're taking you through this flashback through the movie as well, because she obviously was like the personal guard for the princess, right? Like they told you that. And at the end of the movie, her adopted father is ruling everything. So it's obvious that there was an overthrow probably led by that guy, right? And I'm sorry that Wesley got killed, right? Because of course the guy who was the father or the king in this was fucking Princess Bride, right? I love that. I love that Carrie Ools is still working, but
What was it? Who?
I can't say his last name. You know that. And I know that we came into this thinking, maybe this is a Kurosawa. Maybe this is my Kurosawa, my homage, but nobody was a samurai. Like I get that she gave up. This very much is partially the Last Jedi too. Like she gave up. She laid down her weapon. She was just farming. And then she got dragged back in. Speaking of farming, there was another part at the beginning of this movie that made me like, what? Did you notice she did the gladiator thing? Like
Yeah.
she's feeling the dirt. I expect her to do that on every world. Why'd she only do it there and nowhere else? Why did she only do it there and never again? I guarantee you that shit's on the cutting room floor somewhere, a slow motion of her rubbing dirt on her hands. And somebody said they couldn't talk about the space vaginas, but they were like, yo, isn't that from Gladiator? And he was like, shit, I guess you'll only do it once.
I think probably like honestly, Zack Snyder probably just forgot about it because he was like, wait a second, I could do some cool slow-mo scenes of her plowing dirt. Like that. I'm sure he thought, like, what other slow-mo can I put into this movie? Guaranteed.
Also, they have electric light and fire in the same society. Like battery powered has to be solar or some kind of, easy charging system. And they have a hand plow that looks like it was like manufactured somewhere. It wasn't like we put this thing together. It was like, no, this is off the manufacturing line in Moline, Illinois. Here you go. Whip it to your fancy space horn.
I can't really understand the whole idea behind the agricultural space farmers. There's just a little bit of confliction.
Let's be honest, they were Swedish or at least wherever they were Norwegian, maybe. Like
Yeah.
they were like,
So
no, we do it for the community and everybody fuck. Like that also threw
what
me
was
off a little
that
bit.
about?
Did I
Why?
miss that? This whole movie. And in case the listeners are like, what the hell are these idiots doing? We talked about the good, and now we're at the bad, and we're borderlining the ugly. In case you wanted to keep up at home, in case you're keeping score. If you think that we've gone too fast, here's the socials again. Let us know. But yeah, no, everybody fuck. Like, hey, you should go give it up and have a kid for the harvest.
For the harvest that we really don't have a lot of food for. There's a little bit of surplus, and was that so? That was another thing that was confusing. So it was just like it didn't seem like they had a lot,
Well,
and then
they didn't have a lot because they sold it to the rebels.
right, right.
And like they let fucking Gunner like run wild and sell it to the rebels. And yeah, no, go ahead, Gunner. We're thankful for the land and the thing. But yeah, we'll commit war crimes. Who cares? Who cares?
You know what? I think we should skip the bad or the rest of the bad because really the rest of it's pretty ugly. So I want to talk a little bit about how the apparatuses where they're executed or like
Or
trapped.
paralyzed?
Yeah.
Like the fancy coat racks? Coat
There's
rack
Dr.
Roomba?
Octopus. Yeah, Dr. Octopus comes in and like traps them. And then the
But they
only
have to use
way
a plow on the back of a horse.
the only way for them to get killed is they shove in like a 6 in 8. No, that's probably even longer than that. It was like a 12-inch needle
It's a big hot spike.
through the neck, and it doesn't go all the way through.
Well, no, it doesn't kill them. It was meant to paralyze them for
It killed the other
transport.
dude.
Well, they shot it in a little funky.
Well, I think that's what they were doing is
They said with the other people, paralyze them for transport.
right, paralyze them. But still, when you have like a blade or a needle that big going into somebody's neck, it's going to shoot out the other side, right? I don't know. It's just so weird
there's
to me.
there's two things for me there, right? One, they're captured. Why are we paralyzing them? Isn't that a hat on a hat?
Well, we don't want to risk them escaping, Mark.
But what is it going to run out of batteries? Does your DJ
I,
Roomba need to go back to the charging station on the ship?
Sometimes Dr.
Like,
Octopus has a mind of its own.
Yeah, gets feelings. And then
Yeah.
like this surgical procedure is dirty. It looks like a fucking rail gun full of grease and rust that we're gonna just, yeah, no, it's fine. Sometimes you gotta hit it a little extra to get it to cock right, but yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Don't rub any rubbing it. No alcohol necessary. It's a dirty world. If there was one good thing about this movie, the texture of everything was everybody was sweaty and dirty and did not give a fuck. Like they had space vaginas, and they were able to fly in machines, but washing machines were not invented yet. They could not clean, like even the fucking military guys were dirty and stained out and used up.
I'm wondering if there's any military out there there's like, man, another movie where the army or the military is viewed as just a bunch of rapists and pillagers.
Yo, that was like, so I wanted to ask you how you felt about that action scene and only that action scene because the rest of it kind of sucked. But that was a
Not
pretty
bad.
legit scene.
Yeah, not bad. I thought that was a really cool setup. Like, oh, this girl is a badass. She's gonna f them up. She has the axe, and I'm thinking like, oh man. And there was a little bit of tension there too, because you're anticipating like she's gonna fuck them up, and then you're thinking, oh my god, she's actually just handing it over. Maybe she's just gonna just bow down, and something else will happen. She'll get captured, and something else will happen and she'll seek revenge after they rape and pillage the entire village. That's where I thought it might have gone because sometimes Zack Snyder likes to go a little dark, right? But
You mean
no, that wasn't the
sometimes Zack
case.
Snyder likes to copy Quentin Tarantino?
That's like really talking down about Quentin Tarantino, and so I would say that Zack Snyder is just in a league of his own on that one. But
No.
yeah, the action scene was good. Like I wasn't bad. I wasn't mad at it. The I was a little bit concerned about some of the angles that blades and guns were being shot through people. Like I'm pretty sure she shot someone like through the neck, and it was like directly in line with her. But I don't know. I'm nitpicking there. But yeah, he
Space
can do
bullets
action
stop.
scenes. He can do a good action scene, Zack
Yeah, no,
Snyder.
I
And
thought
and
that was a good action scene. And the final one wasn't terrible.
the gunplay was pretty cool. Like the sound effects, the rapid fire, laser bullets, and all that stuff. Cool, but yeah, man, like when your entire army is like stormtroopers, and but they're not. There's fucking blind. There's no excuse. Like you've heard the reason why stormtroopers suck at aim because they've got these big fucking helmets on. They can't see shit. That's not the case for this army. Like this guy was running next to them and no one shot him. They were surrounding people, no one shot them, and they got out of there. It's so crazy to me. I,
Yeah,
I want to talk about something. The odd part where you knew it was going to be like Star Wars, but then it turns into just like, oh, didn't see that coming. It's the gay Moss Eisley, where I thought that was actually kind of funny, but it's not a good funny, right? Like I'm just like I'm laughing because like, oh, okay, all
it
right,
was the
yeah, Star Wars probably wouldn't have gone with this,
it was the bar scene from American Pie 2 without the dance off.
but they had way more dick grabbing in this one.
Was it Crocodile Dundee esque? Like,
Crocodile Dundee, man. It was
no.
just full on. They really zoomed in on that. So like, kudos to Zack Snyder for doing like going balls deep into that gay bar because it was rough.
Oh man. Mm. Hey, um, this movie brought up another question. Is Charlie Hunnam okay? He's done so many good movies, and now he's in this.
Has he?
I mean, well, he did Sons of Anarchy, which was good.
That's not a movie.
He did a few Guy Ritchies, like,
He
you
was
know,
okay in that.
but he was at least like in the, with, some of the most prominent directors, and now he's like, I don't get this for him. I
I
don't.
don't. I think he fails in a lot of movies, so that's why it's not really like and I'm not a Sons of Anarchy fan. I'm not saying it's bad. I just never really got into it. I'm sure it's great and fantastic. It's just, and I don't mind Charlie Hunnam. I actually really liked him in Triple Frontier, but that's because Ben Affleck is the bomb. So, but they had a wonderful cast: Pedro Pascal, Oscar Isaac, Ben Affleck, and him. Pretty stellar cast, an awesome movie, and a lot of good action in it too.
And the scary part, he's the bottom of that list, right? Like, I don't know who you give the top to, Like you want to
Oh,
say word, bitch, Phantom's like a
yeah.
motherfucker, but like
I
Charlie
will
Hunnam is the
say,
worst of those four.
no, he's not the worst of the four. Garrett Hedlund is the worst of the four. But it was or I'm sorry, five. There's five. So I forgot to mention Garrett Hedlund.
Right. So
But
Charlie Hunnam's four. The
yeah,
other three you mentioned, Affleck, um,
Oscar Isaac, Pedro
yeah,
Pascal.
I was gonna try and use their Star Wars names, Poe Dameron and the Mandalorian, um, all awesome. And Affleck should have absolutely been in a Star Wars movie, but he was
Hey
Batman.
man, Garrett Hedlund was the bomb in Four Brothers. So I kudos to Jackie in Four Brothers. But yeah, the Game Moss Isley scene was kind of fun. I thought that was really cool. Scotland Archy. I put in my notes Sons of Scotland Archy with Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah,
I thought he did a fine job, but I just didn't understand the double cross. Like, yeah, he's a bounty hunter, but it was like almost the was it Benicio del Toro in The Last Jedi? Very
same
similar to
exact
that. Like,
move. Same exact move. I told you
yeah.
this is the Last Jedi, but not. Um, it I think that this was another movie like the Spider-Man Spider-Verse movie earlier that we not earlier last year that we watched. We're about halfway through. I'm like, this is the first half. I can remember that. So they're just gonna find a point to pause. Um, it'll probably be a double cross. And I was right. Like, because they're just bringing the weirdest, most nefarious people from across the
Well,
galaxy. Of course, there's just gonna be a double cross.
yeah, I think you really nailed it right on the head, though. The whole Rick and Morty, like,
It was.
son of a bitch, I'm in.
Mm.
Oh God!
But
But go ahead, go ahead.
the thing for me and the real like miss in the way that they tried to land this, right? Because I talked about how they ended it with a double cross is I think they should have given us the flashback as to what happened to the royal family. Like, because they infer it by saying she was a guard and her dad's now in power, but like take us through her trauma a little bit more. And then now we see what's at stake for the next movie. We
Oh,
just know that Weird Dad's in charge and she's going to fight Weird Dad, but we don't know how committed she is to vengeance if that's in fact the case.
but the reason why that's the structure of it is because he's trying to do a Star Wars. We didn't know shit about anybody in A New Hope, and then in the second movie, Empire Strikes Back, it's just like, oh my God, he's his fucking father. No way. Like there was no backstory as to how Darth Vader killed Luke Skywalker's dad. It turned out it was his dad. So I think there's going to be like one of those big
But we know
reveals.
that she's not the princess.
But she is the adopted daughter of him. So she's Gamora, he's Thanos. But the I think he's just trying to be clever. He's trying to be clever and stretch the story out in such
But
a way that where it's like, I got to do a sequel. This is
he's
none
never
of this
been
is going to make
clever.
sense. So we've got to do the sequel. It's in post production.
When
So
has Zack Snyder ever been clever?
oh man, I think that's an unfair statement. There's been a lot of good stuff that and sequences that he's done, and with even with plot points and everything. Granted, he got the source material from Watchmen. I never watched, or I'm sorry, I never read the Watchmen graphic novel before, but I thought it was at the end of that movie. Oh, well, I don't want to give it away for you, but I thought it was like a very cool surprise for me. What did you think about every the names and everything? Did you find it hard to really understand the motivation for anybody and who was who? Because I couldn't figure out what anyone's names were.
Yeah, no, I again at some point in this movie, I think I checked out of the fine details and just tried to appreciate it from a universe perspective and from a day in the world perspective, and that wasn't even accomplished for me.
The fine details. That's it's so funny that you say that because it's just like, what? Really? fine details. Uh, made up ass hat names and then you've got like all these, the Star Wars esque type names, and then the only person only known as Nemesis. Like, really? That's what you come up with for her? You couldn't come up with something cool? Uh, Unreal. And Anthony Hopkins, meanwhile, is just a droid that runs off. He's like, he shoots someone, feels guilty, and runs off.
Can we go back to Nemesis? Or should we call her Asian chick Ronan?
She was cool. I liked her, but I didn't understand her swords because it's like they can cut through stuff, but then they don't. Do they retract? Are they energy based? Are they actual weapon, like physical weapons? I was very confused by it because it seemed like they were going back and forth in between the two. Because she, at one point, she took a sword, shoved it through somebody, didn't nothing came out the other side, but the weapon is obviously longer than the just like the whole little needle in the neck thing.
Yeah, it seemed like they were like hot, like they heated up with a battery or some kind.
Hot blades.
That's it. Like and I was looking up the name of the of Karen Fujikawa's character in Suicide Squad. Do you want to know what it is? It's the most unoriginal name it could
I'm
possibly be.
gonna. I know what it is, but yeah, go ahead.
No, no, please.
I it's in the top, like the tip of my tongue, but like I'm gonna be like, ah, fuck, I knew that. Go ahead.
It's 100% Katana. What's
Yes.
her
This
power?
here's
Oh, it's her katanas. Original
this
name.
here's Katana. You don't want to mess with her. Her sword contains the souls of their victims. Like, get the fuck out of here.
It's
I really dislike Joel Kinnaman because of that role. He's been good in a lot of other stuff, but I really hated him for the longest time because of his portrayal of Rick Flag. Katana.
I just like that the chick out for revenge from her murdered kids is named Nemesis. I am a nemesis with my two fancy boiling swords.
I didn't
They're
get
not lightsabers. George Lucas can't sue me, but
it. I wish they would have named some of the weapons. It would have been cool to hear the names of some of the weapons.
like you think that he would have stole that from the from Lord of the Rings. Like name everything.
I did notice though there was a little bit of inconsistencies with the blasters.
A little bit.
You get
A little
shot
bit.
once, you're like dead, no matter where it's at. You get shot once, you're dead. But some people are okay if they get shot multiple times. Other people are okay if they get shot, wherever, but they're just like limping or acting hurt. Like, I don't, yeah,
They had better hit point value, Dan. They were just
yeah,
more
there you
durable. They
go.
had more durability points.
Hey, are you a Harry Potter fan?
I don't hate it.
Did you enjoy Buckbeak? Because he made a cameo
Oh
in this
yeah,
movie.
no, that's definitely that's How to Train Your Dragon. It was
Oh my
Buckbeak.
God.
It was
Dude, he bowed just like you do to Buckbeak.
mhm.
Unreal.
Yeah. What house do you
Unreal.
think he was? Your boy
Uh,
Tarek. Like, he's not a
ah,
Slytherin.
I don't know, man, but
Yeah, Hufflepuff.
that's if he doesn't look like Tarzan
Yeah.
or,
Original fucking name, right?
jeez. But Buckbeak, I I, I want to talk about that because there has to like J.K. Rowling could totally sue him, right? I mean, it's like just like him, just a different color. Pretty much like almost the same thing. Buckbeak fucked some people up with his talons. So did this one.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like that again. They also did they got Titus. How do you say his name? I don't want
Jimin
to.
Hansu.
Yeah, like, oh, he's a gladiator. Oh, is he?
He's a tactical, greatest tactical mind of like what? What?
They
He looks like a
basically,
he just looked dirty and he needed a shower and he was enslaved. That's all that. I didn't see any tactical
Well, no, no.
anything.
He was a gladiator in Gladiator.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so he's just really good at that. Okay. And then they just used his makeup from Shazam and threw him in the mud. Like
But they
that's
didn't use the
basically
beard
what they
though.
did.
They didn't use the beard, so they couldn't
Yeah.
get that.
That was already spoken for. Um,
What was up with the eels on Ed Screen's body? Like, what was with that? Like, was that like a sex like thing? Like, I'm
I
not even
don't
joking
know.
because
Like
it,
the
it was
other
like
one that had the other dude by the neck and it was talking. I forget what movie that was, but that's from another movie. Like where there, it was like Johnny Mnemonic. You remember Johnny Mnemonic?
yes, yes, I do.
Same fucking thing. They stole that shit too.
Oh
This chick
man.
didn't just have a she didn't have a hard drive in her head. That's the only difference. This was very like that too. It's like I feel like it's so unoriginal. That's the thing I hated about it. It's
What
so
was
unoriginal and then just put together poorly.
for Johnny Mnemonic? Now that I'm thinking, I saw this in theaters, R.I.P. Bremen Theaters in Tinley Park. Now Menards or Teacher's Corner, wherever the fuck's over there. But Johnny Mnemonic, remember how much storage he had in his head? It was something like I can hold 100 or like 5 gigs of data in my head. And like at the time, that's like, oh my God, that's a ton of storage. But now, like the shittiest phone has like
64.
quadruple the capacity.
No, it was
It's
80 gigabytes, bro.
80 gigs. Okay. All right.
His
So,
memory capacity was 80, which he could double for a short time to 160. But the latest assignment they gave him was 320. So it fried his shit.
oh my God. I kind of want to watch that movie now.
It's a good movie. Underrated. Johnny,
Another appearance by Dolph
watch it.
Lundgren.
Talk about a retro rewind there. Like, you know what? Those of you that were that in this order, watch the podcast and then watch the movie. Fuck this movie. Go watch Johnny Mnemonic. Keanu.
There you go. There you go. Um, Anything else that you can think of from the good, bad, or ugly?
You know, there comes a time in every bad movie where you just hope the end comes. And it came. And I was happy.
A lot of people are happy after someone comes, so
That's
that's
just
where
I mean, I'd be like, Dan, you can't say that, but this whole movie was a bunch of just veiled general jokes or general references. So fuck it.
well, because I feel like we're at the climax of everything. Uh, I've got a question to ask you, Mark. When it comes to Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon Part One, and there is going to be a Part Two, can you do this movie all day?
I choose to never slide through this wormhole again. I'll only because I've got a feeling that we're gonna do it for the podcast. I'll watch the sequel, but unlike Justice League, I don't need the director's cut to this bitch. I've got a feeling I know your answer as well, but I mean, the world has to know when you've also flip flopped in weirder situations. Dan, do you like the moon, the rebel moon?
You know, there's a lot of things I can do all day. Some of them involve some of the imagery in this movie, but I will say some things I like to do fast, some things I like to do slow. Zack Snyder loves to do everything slow, but nah, this isn't for me. I was like a young man coming in for a quickie. I was leaving very unsatisfied. So, no, I cannot do this all day.
That's for those of you keeping track at home. This is a rare thing where both of us hate a movie so much that we don't have much nice to say about it. And it's somebody's art. So many people work so hard on it. Good for them for bringing home the bacon for their families. Um, Man, next time work on a better movie. How many more shots do you think Zack Snyder gets after this? Like, did he sign a
I
long-term
mean,
deal
Zack
with
Snyder,
Netflix?
I think he did. I think
Does
he
he have the Dave
did.
Chappelle deal? Like,
Because,
I show up, but I just do it. Ha! Gotcha, bitch.
I mean, he did Army of the Dead, and that's worth a watch. I really think that's worth a watch. Uh, you've got this. I think well, obviously he has the second one coming out. It's in post-production, but I'm not going to say Zack Snyder is absolutely talentless because I don't think that's the case. I really don't. He has a certain art style, right? But the big thing for a universal audience, he's been getting shit on a lot. I don't know if he's going to have like the John McTiernan type of fame where he has like a stretch of good movies and then everything else after that just like kind of trails off and then you never hear from him again. But I don't mind him as a director. I just it needs to be a cohesive story. If you want to do some slow motion, which I know you love doing, Zach, if you want to do that, great. But there needs to be a cohesive story that makes sense, that is also building upon something, not just like one big movie orgy where everyone's just like smashed together, moving around and people die and then one person's out of the orgy and then someone else comes in and then someone else fucks it up because they want to, take over the world. Like this isn't a good orgy, Zach. I just don't like it. Zack Snyder makes a porno, I think would be the next movie that we review because him and Kevin Smith should make one. And I think Zack and Miri make a porno is like what 20th anniversary or 10th anniversary, whenever that movie came out. I think it's it's around that time. So Zack Snyder, let's why don't you go make some adult films because you love the sexual connotation. You might as well just go full bore.
Yeah, no. Normally I like to be bought dinner before somebody just ugh. No. I want my $8 back. Will Netflix refund me for the month after this? Like, I don't even know. I don't even know. Like, and a movie I know we won't talk about in this podcast, Maestro. I watched that last night and I fell asleep in the first half of it, but when I woke up, the movie got better. I can't say that about this movie. Like, I wish I was sleeping during the whole thing, and then I would have missed it, and then it would have been better. But no, no, stop, Zach, stop.
Oh, well, I don't think it's that bad. But that does remind me of like in Happy Gilmore at the beginning of the movie when Happy's girlfriend is like, "There's a problem, Zach. You're not any good. Just stop making movies."
Man, you know what this reminds me of a different Adam Sandler shirt, or different Adam Sandler movie. And I'm very glad that they didn't give him the Star Wars movie they were thinking about giving him because it's like The Wedding Singer. Zach, don't touch any of my favorite franchises. The fucking band's gonna break up. Take off my Van Halen t-shirt, Zach.
And on that note, we're going to close this podcast out because this has been probably one of our most vulgar and X-rated episodes. But Mark, anything else you want to add?
I mean, the only thing that I'll add is to our friends at sfgate.com, the culture and streaming section. We want to know we support your article headlined Netflix's Rebel Moon is one of the worst movies ever made. More power to
Ooh.
you. And if this podcast has been enjoyable and you want more Zack Snyder bashing, sfgate.com. Hit him up. Friend of the podcast.
Well, until next time, hopefully we'll do another movie that is either really good or maybe really bad, and you'll just have us both just shit on the movie. It'll be another fantastic, just collage of vulgarness and just ridiculous banter. But Till next time, I'm Dan the Part Time Avenger. That's Mark the Resident Jedi.
Like and subscribe. I guarantee we'll find a worse movie than this. They're making a sequel to this and Samaritan. I mean, the treasure trove keeps coming. The shit river continues. Like and subscribe if you want to ride those shit river rapids with us.
Don't forget your toilet paper. We'll see you next time, everyone.